You see him on the news.
CNN.com contributor, Dean Obeidallah. So, Dean...
Watch him at comedy clubs.
When I say Mecca, do you think of a holy place or an urban clothing line?
Read his articles. And you hear him on the radio. The Dean Obeidallah Show is on live right here on SiriusXM Progress, Channel 127.
And welcome to the show, brothers and sisters of the resistance. Monday, November 26th. I'm Dean Obeidallah. Hope to be your MBFF. On Twitter, at Dean Obeidallah. Facebook.com/Dean of Radio, or drop me an email, dean@deanofradio.com. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving weekend. Hope you had some fun. I know it can be stressful with the family. We all know that, but I still hope it was fun and you enjoyed seeing some relatives. I hope you didn't have those fights over politics, and worse, with fellow progressives over politics. We try to ready everyone for that on Wednesday's show. So, and I had fun. I had a nice Thanksgiving. Got to see my sister and her kids and her husband and my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, and it was a lot of fun. It was nice. We were in Jersey. Now we're back, folks, and daily reminder. We have a new daily reminder. This is brand new. 38. What is that for? 38 days. The Democrats take over the House of Representatives. And that, my friends, is the day when the corrupt and lawless Donald Trump will finally start being held accountable. Just like the Constitution contemplated, that Congress would not be a doormat for a corrupt president, but held in check by an independent branch of government. And bingo, thanks to everyone's work. And that's the biggest thing to give thanks for now. Everyone worked, everyone hustled. We took the House. And we keep winning races over the weekend. Another one definitely ours, the one in Utah. Mia Love has lost, who was actually, on some level, I'm torn about that because she was the only African-American woman in the entire Republican caucus in the House. And while we disagree politically, having someone like that in their caucus perhaps will expose them to a reality that they've never met before in the House. But she's gone. That's part of the wave, and that's where it goes. So a lot of issues to talk. We're going to definitely talk about the Mississippi race tomorrow, the last Senate race, last congressional race of 2018. Obviously, uphill battle in Mississippi. No Democrats won for Senate over 30 years. We'll talk about that a little later. First, though, I want to talk about what's going on at the border. Trump, by the way, of course, tweeting today, warning that the caravan includes, in his words, stone cold criminals. Stone cold criminals. Stone cold criminals. Does he mean like Paul Manafort, Rick Gates, Mike Flynn, George Papadopoulos? Stone cold criminals? That kind? Like Ed 2BA, others, maybe like Roger Stone, Don Jr., that kind of criminal? Because I'm not worried about the caravan. The Trump train is filled with convicts. It's like with the movie with Nicolas Cage, where they flew across the country with all the convicts in it. Con Air. That's what the Trump Air Force One should be called, Con Air at this point. That's what's really going on, my friends. But let's talk about quickly what's going on at the border. And I want to cut through some of the lies, the misinformation. And I know a lot of times the stories about the caravan and people at the border get mushed into one. So let's make sense of it. Let's clarify some things. And let's do something really important. And I really implore people to do this. When we speak of the people at the border, I know migrants is technically the correct term. But let's not forget this. They are human beings. They are human beings. They're not just migrants. They're not immigrants. They are human beings. They are fathers and mothers and daughters and sons, granddaughters and grandsons. And with few exceptions, all are there to come to the United States to make a better life. Because we tell the world the United States is the greatest country in the world, and they believed it, and they want to come here and be a part of it. So let's not forget they are human beings. So when I talk about now that they're being tear gassed, let's not forget they are human beings. And that's who these are families. Are there some bad ones? I'm sure. In a big sea of thousands of people, there's a handful of bad ones, but we don't define an entire group by a few bad ones. That's what conservatives do. Despite the fact that mass shootings are committed almost exclusively 60% by young white men, but we'll never have laws to prevent young white men who are right wing from getting guns, but that's a different story. So let's talk about what's going on. Let's clear about some things right off the top here. What happened yesterday is that, and this is per Washington Post reporting and New York Times reporting. I'm giving you the sources, so we're all on the same page right here. As the Washington Post reported yesterday, Sunday yesterday, for several hours, U.S. authorities closed off the busiest port of entry, the one by Tijuana connecting San Diego. And there was a skirmish, an incident there at the border. I'm sure you heard about that with tear gas. What started it? Well, let's go back in time slightly. And this was kind of lost, but I'm glad the Washington Post reported it. What began was that there were human beings there protesting the slow pace in which U.S. asylum claims were being processed. Trump has done everything he can to slow down the asylum application process. Now they are accepting 60 to 100 a day. That's it. There's a backlog of over 3,000 people to have their asylum application processed. That doesn't mean when you get processed, you're accepted into America. This is not open borders. We have a whole system of laws. You have to have credible fear. You have to make a showing, an application, and go before a judge. In any event, started with a protest simply about that. They were standing out there, their families, things were moving slowly. They have a protest. Well, some of them did charge the entry point and tried to get into the country. And it was a chaotic scramble, as the Washington Post reports. Hundreds try to make their way to the border crossings. Now, as the Washington Post and New York Times report, a small percentage of the overall people waiting did this, but some did. And then the Customs and Border Protection people there took the rare step of firing tear gas into Mexico. So they saw people coming at the border, and they were on the U.S. side, and they fired tear gas over whatever fencing, whatever wall that was there, into Mexico to stop them there. And they closed all entry points. So not just for people trying to come to this country, but even just normal tourists and traffic, closed down. About 100,000 visitors per day go back and forth. Everyone was locked out. Images were all over the media. You probably saw it. Heartbreaking. I saw two little kids. One looked like they were in diapers with their mother crying. And behind them, you see just a plume of tear gas coming at them. And there were countless pictures of that. Senator Brian Schatz, a Democrat from Hawaii, tweeted, tear gas across the border against unarmed families is a new low. Kirstjen Nielsen, though, Trump's head of Homeland Security, said, as I have continually stated, DHS will not tolerate this type of lawlessness and will not hesitate to shut down ports of entry for security and public safety reasons. Now, let's talk about the tear gas a little bit here, because, again, these are not migrants. These are human beings. In the photos that I saw with my own eyes, reported by NBC News, CNN, and all reputable media outlets, showed there were men, but countless mothers with their children there as well. Here's Ali Velshi on MSNBC breaking down what tear gas does when an adult is exposed to it. Let's hear clip number 1.
When it comes into contact with the wet surfaces of a person's eyes, their mouth, the inside of their nose, skin if it's wet, breathing passages, it irritates the body's defenses, which then kick into high gear trying to flush out the material. So again, that's why it's worse if you're in a panic and you're breathing in heavily. The result is that heavy streams of tears, mucus, and saliva work to clear the body of these droplets. And as the exposed person coughs or chokes on the spray, they retch up fluids. Eyelids snap shut, by the way, in response to severe burning. Even temporary blindness can occur.
So that's Ali Velshi breaking it down exactly what tear gas does. Then he went the next step and explained, what does tear gas do to a child? Because in our name, the Trump administration is firing tear gas at children. Let's remember, this is in our name. The world is watching. Fox News might not be watching about the humanity of this. They don't care. These are brown people, and Fox News makes its bread and butter on scaring Americans, their viewers, on the browning of America. So they're not even human beings to them. But the rest of the world sees what's going on, and they see us firing tear gas. These pictures went viral around the world today. And here's what tear gas does to a child. Clip number 2.
While an adult could survive CS gas that's fired into a home, let's say to subdue a disturbed person, a 1989 article in the Journal of the American Medical Association found that if an infant were present at the same place, they would suffer inflammation of breathing passages, requiring at least a month of hospitalization and significant therapy. So it's uniquely different when children are involved. I understand that there are people who understand that there's a reason to use it for crowd control, but this is why it's difficult when there are children involved.
That's what it does to a child. A child might have to stay in a hospital for a month. A child could die from tear gas. There's no doubt about that. So this is being done in our names. That should trouble you if you care about what the United States of America is at least promises to be, what it promises to stand for. The very same promise that enticed my father and countless other immigrants to come to this country. The idea that U.S. Border Patrol was standing on the U.S. side, firing tear gas over the wall into Mexico, is stunning to me. It wasn't like they were in U.S. They had not made it over. Now, about 42 people did cross the border illegally, and they were arrested. That's true. Now, what else is going on? Well, here is Fox News' spin. They had Newt Gingrich on today explaining to the Fox News viewers that all these people at the border should not be considered human beings. They are all funded by the left. He left out George Soros' name because I guess they're being slightly more responsible on that for now, but same idea. Here's clip number 3.
This war on the border is real. And what people are trying to do is a psychological war, very often guided, by the way, by American leftists who are activists and American left-wing organizations who are helping finance it. And their goal is to find some way to embarrass the U.S. government so we can't even control our own border. And we have to be prepared to stand up to that and to do whatever is necessary. I mean, you're either going to have a country and have a border, or you're not going to have a country.
So many lies and misinformation in literally 28 seconds. That was 28 seconds. By the way, first of all, embarrassing America? No. Progressives calling out the faults of America is not embarrassing America. Having our government fire tear gas at children and mothers and separate mothers and children months ago when the whole world saw that, now that embarrasses America. Secondly, hey, a lot of you are involved in progressive organizations. Honestly, is any organization you're involved in funding caravans to come up from the deadly triangle of Honduras and Guatemala and El Salvador to the United States? I'm not aware of that. Does anyone know of any? This lie doesn't stop from them. And his Newt Gingrich, you're either going to have a country with borders or you're not. No progressive is saying we should not have borders. I don't know of any mainstream one, no elected official saying we should not have borders. Open the doors, let anyone in. No one is saying that. This kind of ridiculous phantom that they've created and they're going to save us from it is absolute BS. Now, Trump tweeted, besides the crime thing, he threatened, we will close the border permanently if need be. That's what he tweeted this morning. So you might be asking yourself, can Donald Trump close our southern border permanently? Well, let's go to Judge Napolitano on Fox News, who I frequently play because if there's Trumpers listening, you'll hear your favorite network, a very popular guy, telling you the truth. And what I like about Judge Napolitano now...
Hearing this from the president, right. Threats to shut down the southern border permanently. Can he do that?
He cannot legally do it. We know that because of the federal statutes, which... I understand his frustration. They were last revised in 1986 when our relationship with migrants come to disparage by calling an Obama judge, told him that he had to enforce as well.
And first of all, Judge Napolitano answered very clearly, concisely, no, the President of the United States cannot permanently close the border. That would take an act of Congress. That's not going to happen, obviously. Secondly, I like that Judge Napolitano touched on something that we didn't really talk about last week because of lack of time. There was a Ninth Circuit District Court judge who ruled against Donald Trump's trying to rewrite federal law and saying that if you want to apply for asylum, you must only go to a port of entry. And Trump was saying that's the new rule. You got to go to a port of entry as opposed to crossing anywhere and then saying, I'm claiming asylum. Here's my proffer or my showing of credible fear of why I'm entitled to it or at least should be considered for it. Why was that struck down? Was it because it was an Obama-appointed judge? No, that's not it. Because we have things called laws that are passed by Congress. We have federal statutes. Here is one line from the judge's reasoning, which I think sums it up so perfectly. The judge wrote, whatever the scope of the president's authority, he may not rewrite the immigration laws to impose a condition that Congress has expressly forbidden. Do you remember how on the right they went crazy when President Obama did DACA and anything else he tried to do to interpret statutes? Oh my God, he's a dictator. He's a tyrant. Meanwhile, you have Donald Trump literally violating laws on their face, not in their spirit, on their face, saying that because we have a long-standing law that says you can apply for asylum anywhere. You don't have to come through points of entry. He goes, nope, now you got to come through point of entry. It wasn't like an absent thing in the statute. It clearly said you can apply for it anywhere. He was trying to rewrite laws because he's a dictator in the making. And you hear nothing from the right. So this is where we are, my friend. We have human beings trying to come in this country. Under federal law passed by our Congress, signed into law in 1986 by Ronald Reagan, they have a right to apply for asylum. This is America. You should have that right. It's not a guarantee. Most people, as Raul Reyes has come on our show, an NBC guy who's an expert on it, most get denied. That's the reality. You have to make a proper showing of what's going on. And today, Mexico did deport about 100 people who were involved, who they said were violent. On Sunday, they deported them from Mexico back to their nations they came from, which I assume would be Guatemala, El Salvador, or Honduras. But here's my big question for people, and I'd love to hear your reaction to what's going on. And you're my guest at the top of the hour. A lot happened over the 4-day weekend. Love to hear from you. But Donald Trump today is doubling and tripling down on immigration and on fear-mongering about brown immigrants. Over and over and over and over. He's not stopping. Now, he started this before the midterms, about a month out. Didn't want to talk about the economy. Now I understand why now, because the economy is beginning to slow. But he didn't. He talked about this issue over and over and over and over. He went rally after rally after rally. And what was the reaction on Election Day? The Democrats, we won the most House seats since Watergate. We have now won 8% of the popular vote for the House. That is the most since Watergate. Even though we only picked up 2 Senate seats and on net lost 1 or 2, we got 15% more of the vote of those people voting for Senate than Republicans. We flipped 7 governorships from blue to red, including in the very, very red Kansas and knocking out Scott Walker in Wisconsin. We had a great election day, and this was Donald Trump's issue. Yet he continues to double and triple down on an issue that led the Republicans into the crash on the rocks come election day. So my question is, I don't understand why, and I'd love to hear from you why. And I got some options here. If you have a different option, please think out of the box. One is Donald Trump is trying to build support for the wall. December 7th, we will run out of money, at least partly out of money, for Congress, and there could be a shutdown, and he wants his wall funded in that. So is he trying to gin up fear of immigrants as much as possible and have Fox News, government agents, government media help him? And the whole thing is so he can make a better case to increase public support for a wall, because the last polls show only about 41% of Americans support building the wall. That's one. 2, is this Donald Trump just giving red meat to the base? That's all he knows, so he can't do anything else. Donald Trump is not the president of all Americans. He is the president of his base. He never tried to reach out beyond his base. So is this what he does? And this is what he'll do the next 2 years, continue to give his base what they want. Or 3, is Donald Trump such a true believer in keeping out brown people and maintaining the white demographic, the white supremacy? That's what this is about. I'm open to all answers because I'm really surprised. Because in politics, generally, as we've learned, left and the right, it's completely true. Things that work, politicians continue to double and triple down on it. When they fail horribly and you lose a lot of votes and you lose elections, they tend to move away from those issues. Trump got crushed. The GOP paid a dear price a few weeks ago. And Trump's continuing to go to the well on this issue. And I am stunned by it. And so I'd love to hear from you about it. 866-997-4748. 866-997-4748. What do you think about this issue at the border? Is there, and I don't really know what the answer is right now for the thousands of people there. We can't force the Trump administration to expedite the asylum application process. But they're human beings. And if nothing else, I'd love people to remember that. These are human beings who want a better life for themselves and their families. That's it. And we don't have open borders, though. We have laws. So 866-997-4748. Give me a call. Love to talk to you right here on the Dino Badala Show. Progressive values are the best of American values, and we need to keep fighting for them to save our country.
Don't go anywhere. This is the Dino Badala Show on Sirius XM Progress 127.